Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. I am your host today, Crystal Wing. And if you missed the last episode, this one is a continuation, and it is our takeaways from the 2022 1 through 50 extravaganza. At the end of every episode, we usually end with some sort of takeaway, something that struck a interesting thought or tickled our brains, and we share that at the end. So this week, we're going to share episodes 25 through 50, which includes 4 of the top 5 downloaded episodes of 2022. Can you guess which ones they are? All right, here's our first one we're going to introduce. Episode 25, Questions from the Canine Community, Roundtable Wrap-Up, Part 1.
One of the things that I have come to realize, I could have this phenomenally trained dog, and I can step out into the arena to do whatever chosen sport or detection thing that I'm willing to do. And because of the million different variables going on in that particular thing, plus I'm working with another sentient being that has their own agenda, I can either look gloriously fabulous or I can look like I don't know what I'm doing. And I've just kind of reached the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have fun with my dog, because at the end of the day, and for me in training, right? The deployment stuff is like a whole different little mind frame thing. Yeah. But in training, this is what we do. We're going to go out. We're going to have fun with our dog. And one of the things, the phrases that actually came out through this entire weekend was, oh, that's some information for you about how your dog is working. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just information, because that helps you then address your teaching plans later.
Because we are talking about social pressure here. And I think this is actually a really, this part of social pressure, I think, is super common in nose work, that we see this a lot. There are a lot of sensitive dogs that are competing in nose work. And those handlers, I think, are going through something very different than probably a lot of other handlers. Because when you're a handler of a sensitive dog, if you compare your dog to somebody else's dog, that is a slippery slope. And it's something that is not going to be helpful, because you're comparing apples to oranges. Your sensitive dog, in addition to trying to search, is also having to use a lot of coping mechanisms that maybe your classmate's dog, who has maybe no issues with the environment, no worries, no sensitivities, doesn't have to do. So in that case, the fact that your dog is actually doing a different set of tasks, right? They're not only searching, but they're also having to cope. And we can't underestimate that. And I think it's really quite dangerous when we start to compare our dog to somebody else's dog, because what it can do is, in that case, especially if we have a dog that has to also cope in addition to search, is that if we start to do that, I think the only answer that we're going to come up with is we're going to be disappointed in our dogs. And we never want to be that way. We never want to be disappointed in our dog. We have to realize this also, I have to say, this is easier said than done. And I want to totally recognize that. We can say, you have to realize your dog is on a different journey. The answer to that is actually yes. However, it is really hard to sometimes take that and internalize that, because we are human, and it is very difficult when you take your sensitive dog and then you see another person search with their dog and try to really realize that has zero to do with how well you're doing with your dog or how well your dog is doing. That other person, that's a totally different entity. They might as well be in a different galaxy, because you don't want to compare them. Because the only outcome of comparing a sensitive dog to a dog with no issues is disappointment. And you never want to be there with your dog because that just hurts. And that's just sad. So
life is hard enough. We don't need to do that.
You really have to put a bubble around yourself and just be proud of your dog. Because I think a lot of times we do feel social pressure when we're trialing a sensitive dog or a reactive dog or whatever. Insert,
neurodivergent.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Insert adjective, right? Because that dog is having to do, in addition to searching, a whole host of other things.
Right.
And be proud of your dog, man. Be proud of your dog. So I have to put that out there. That's my PSA for the day.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. And I believe I shared something. I think it was McRae Sheepdogs, who writes some really fantastic introspective posts on Facebook occasionally, actually quite a bit, or it might have been somebody else, how we really spend a lot of time focusing on the ribbons and the trophies and all of the other stuff, or, this next certification or some of the stuff. And sometimes just taking the time to enjoy the journey with the dog is really, really important. Yeah. And that connection engagement, one of the things that made my heart sing this weekend was getting to see handlers really connect with their dogs.
Yeah.
And become that fluent team that we all want to be.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, aren't we about out of time on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of wrap up my thoughts too, since you guys kind of did that. I know. I just been sitting here thinking because that's what I do.
You know what? It's fabulous. I can't wait. Okay, go.
No, this one isn't great. It's just a thought. Why does James Joyce come to my mind? The random things that come in my brain.
He comes to everybody's mind.
Exactly.
Right? I sit around. I think about James Joyce every day. I don't know about you. Don't you,
just
Robin?
on my shoulder, like, hey, what's up? No, just that idea that mistakes are the portals of discovery. And I look back and I lean on that a lot because I really love the idea of self-discovery and that for myself, but also for my dog. And that was something that my friends all really pushed me to utilize a lot this weekend with my young girl that, is a teenager, and that self-discovery can really make you vulnerable. And I saw that vulnerability with Robin, and she shared that with her students this weekend and was such a good model of that. And when people are concerned about ruining their dog and having too much and all of the problems that they encounter, I really feel like that vulnerability piece is so important and that we really have to embrace that. And then understanding that we are always in this state of imperfect understanding, no matter where we are. And we're just constantly evolving. And Robin and I were talking about the Myers-Briggs and how our personality type even changes. And I'm like, wait, you're not the same as you were 20 years ago. And even right now with different trials and tribulations and all the things, like we are constantly in a state of change and ebb and flow. And so is our dog. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap of next dog. I'm not going to do this with the next dog, or I'm going to do this better with the next dog. And instead, I think just go back to embracing that imperfect understanding of where you are right now. And I think that whole give yourself credit, I'm going to work really hard on that. And thank you for those reminders, and give yourself kindness. I need to work on that. I think a lot of people do. I saw that even this weekend. Just continue to be kind to yourself, because then you're going to be even more kind to your dog. Because when you're happy with yourself, your dog feels it. Your dog knows it. And I think I want to end with a Bob Ross. You know Bob Ross, right? And if you don't, you need
Happy
to, because
trees.
Bob Ross is like one of my heroes.
painter?
Yeah.
Yes.
The painter.
Yes.
Happy
With
trees.
the big
Yes.
hair.
Happy clouds.
Yes. Because instead of
Yeah.
making mistakes, we don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. And those happy little accidents are those times that we get to teach. And any opportunity we have to be able to teach, that's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That's an awesome thing we get to experience and do with our dogs and ourselves. So that's my little takeaways from today. Thank you for sharing all of your thoughts.
I always love your takeaways.
I know. I do too.
From James Joyce to Bob Ross, you know?
Yeah. No kidding.
Ooh.
ADHD, welcome. Episode 26 is Questions from the Canine Community, Roundtable Wrap-Up Part 2. We had a roundtable to fund our podcast, and this was our number one downloaded episode. We're still a little stumped. We don't know why it became so popular. If you know, let us know. It's good, but wow, so many downloads. Thank you for all the love. Episode 26. Takeaways. Let me hear them.
Oh, remember that you're training a detection dog, not a trick pony. And I think one of the big things, some of it comes back to objective-based training for me. Make sure that you have a really, really good goal when you set stuff out. If you're trying to swing the pendulum on your dog, make sure your hide placement reflects that. And videotape, record stuff, right?
Yep.
And then you understand that that's actually part of your training time for us to be able to go back and watch those things, because it will tell you, okay, maybe my hide placement was a little off. Or if my hide placement was absolutely spot on. I think that would be, because you can use it as a teaching moment because your dog will tell you.
Yeah. And I would say my takeaway is to think about your markers, the intended and unintended. And if you can, try to keep your markers distinct and not get them muddy by adding motion plus verbal, because your dog will always listen to motion more than they will listen to verbal. So that can add clarity to your training.
And I think my takeaway is simply look for the detection dog pre-cue school of shuffle dance.
Maybe we need to have a verse writing competition on Facebook.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We've got the hook.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We'll have to figure out what we'll give them. Ooh.
We'll give them a hard time. That's what my dad always says.
Yep, we can do that.
Maybe we can come up with a merch thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think when you're watching your videos, start looking for the canine shuffle, the
detection dog shuffle. Yep.
Yeah.
We definitely need a song verse, so that would be great.
Yes.
Episode 27, Distraction Camp 2022 download. You hear us talk about it a lot. I hope you can join us this summer, 2023. And so you have to kind of know, for some dogs, distractions are super expensive. For them to make the choice to not go do that distraction, that is really hard for them. And they are working so much harder than I think we recognize, because we don't have our scent goggles, our odor goggles, whatever you want to have. And we don't even have an idea of what they're actually working through. And then even thinking about the trigger stacking, the reactive dog handler trainer that we were talking about, at one point I pointed out that she didn't recognize all the stuff her dog was going through before they started the job, because she was getting the instruction from, I think from Robin at the time as to what to do in the Quonset. And her dog is keyed on the donkeys, is watching the other dogs, is getting dogs from behind her. And she didn't notice any of that. So what she thought was she still had the same dog that she brought from the car over to that place. But in the time they sat there, in just that 30 seconds, that dog's world just spun up a whole bunch. So then when she goes to Cinder, something I love, the observation you guys kept making for people, was that when they started searching, they would do this kind of shake off moment. And you pointed out, your dog has not been searching at any of this time until they did that shake off. So all of that area hasn't been covered because they couldn't focus yet. And so that engagement piece, I saw it firsthand. So I mean, just time after time with so many of the handlers and trainers, that it was, you have to be connected from that start, or you're going to miss a whole bunch of that search area. And that was a huge takeaway for me. I really appreciated seeing that.
You know what was also really, really great was, I think people really embrace the aspect, the idea of training over testing. When I go out and I see a lot of nosework handlers and everything, there's a feeling of trying to replicate the test environment, which is the trial, replicating the test. And I think people really started to embrace the training of it and not the testing, because the test becomes easy. That's really what training is. Training is about making that test easy. But if we replicate the test, we're just testing. But if we give them the dogs the tools to handle like these distractions, it makes the test easy. And I think people really, really embrace that. And also realize that you sometimes have to train differently than you trial.
Right. And I think I went on a rant. Actually,
I think we had several soapboxes.
We did have several soapboxes, but one of the sayings that I really don't like is the whole trust your dog saying.
Amen. Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Because that sort of implies everything is wrapped up into this weird little magical black box that
it puts so much pressure on the dog.
Exactly. So my whole thought process is trust your training, then trust your dog.
Exactly. If you're training there, you can trust your dog, right?
Correct. And so, and it's that whole evolution of if we stop trying to just throw out stuff and see what the dog will do on how it'll react in this situation and how it will react in this situation. And we start looking at it as what skill set does my dog need to have in order to be successful if I want to set out this problem, then we can actually have the conversation of, I need to train these skill sets so that my dog understands what to do when we get into a situation that looks like that, which actually all the way leads back to fluency.
One of our first podcasts
where we talked about fluency. And because what you guys show up to for some of your trials, you're never going to be able to train in all of those exact environments. And for detection,
never.
Right.
Exactly. Never.
You can't train for all that stuff. But if you've trained the skill sets the dogs need in order to solve the problems, that's where your training comes into. And let them figure it out is like the whole danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Episode 28 is Train Your Detection Dog with a Purpose.
We also have been using the whole comment, the terminology. So maybe this is now turning into a terminology episode. Maybe we should do one on that, on pressure. Because pressure in one world might mean electricity.
Right.
In another world might be body pressure, might mean mental pressure by the handler, is all of these different forms of pressure. And even just up in their space pressure, body pressure for your dog. So the types of pressure, I can bring a whole lot of pressure to bear just by the tone of my voice, and seeing Crystal go from Little Miss Happy, I'm a high school art teacher, to, oh my gosh, I can run your dog off the field. It took me a whole long time to get those two little things married in the same sentence to realize that it's acting.
It's a lot of acting.
Crystal's fierce.
Right. And I think about, it's down to, and watching Crystal work with a lot of the dogs this year on, frontal pressure is too much. So for this dog, I don't make eye contact. And walking through all of those little subtle things about pressure has been really interesting to me, that it's more than just tools. Yep. So that was my whole little, let's think about the pressure internally, externally, all of those things that you're bringing to your dog. And when you walk in the ring or walk out for a certification, you smell different because you're under pressure yourself. And so you've got all those little stress hormones going on in your body.
And I had to check myself because I put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. And because that's my type of human that I am, I automatically do that with my dogs as well. And so that's something I really have to keep in check, is that I'm not putting that, because if I mess up, and even that of being mad at myself, then the dog is like, whoa, what did I do? You didn't do anything, buddy. You're cool. Mm-hmm. So I really have to keep that in check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Summit trials, right? I had a student of mine say, wow, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And I'm like, well, honestly, there is pressure. It's like out of what I've run in 7 trials, I've titled in 5 of them. And actually, well, there's a whole story around a 6th of them. But I've been in the top 5. I'll put it that way, in the top 5 and 6 out of 7 trials. So every time you go to a new trial, you have all of that previous success actually applies its own pressure. There's actually positive pressure that gets applied to the handler.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Because I love competition, and the pressure of competition makes me
I do
get excited. So there's also, I like what you said, the positive pressure there too.
It's positive pressure, but it's still pressure. So you still have to cope with it. And that coping with it, if you don't cope with it the right way, can really negatively affect your dog.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is really off topic, but like, I totally all in like.
But it's kind of not off topic, because it's the no training is better than bad training. And if you are in a place that you can't mentally or emotionally or socially or whatever train your dog in that moment, don't.
Oh, okay. Now I can see where it's on topic. I get it.
I mean, how many times I love one example this summer with Robin. I had all these training plans and all these thoughts, and I was super excited about all these things. And poor Robin was just, I think I might wear her out sometimes. And she might sleep for the next week whenever she's not important, doing all of her important farm and all the meeting stuff. But anyway, there was a moment and I was like, this and this and this and this. And she looked at me and I said, what do you want to do? I just want to play with my dog.
Right.
And it was the most glorious play session, and it was beautiful training. And it was so great to see the joy that her and her dog had together. And I always go back to that. Whatever you're feeling, tap into that and use that. It was a beautiful moment. I appreciated that, Robin.
Wow. And I want people to think, everybody wants to get their puppy up and going or get their dog where they've started this new thing. And I want to go out and show my dog off and do all of this stuff. And I just say, you know what? Enjoy your dog. I have 2 puppies that are about 10 months old right now. And I've spent a lot of time working on all of these individual pieces that in about 2 months are going to come together, and I'm going to have I already have amazing dogs, but they're going to be amazing working dogs.
Yeah.
And that is knowing that I have put things together in a developmental way that has not put an immense amount of pressure on them also brings me joy, because I also know I haven't applied all of the pressure to them and to me to make really cool Facebook videos.
Yeah. And I feel like this summer too, in all these different seminars, we've really spent a lot of time almost life coaching, trying to help people learn how to stand up for themselves and their dogs. I don't know, maybe that might be something we could discuss in future times, but how do you get that backbone or those words to be able to talk to others when you just don't quite know what to say? I think we've done a really good job of coaching people through that this summer, especially. Do you see that too, Stacy?
I agree.
I do. I really do. And I think that a lot of what you're talking about also comes down to empathy, and it's empathy for the human. I think you also want to think about giving your dog a little, I'm going to use one of your phrases, give them a little grace, right?
Yeah.
Give them a little empathy. And if you have a dog, this goes back to our topic, like maybe trialing too soon. Like if you have a dog that just isn't showing the joy, focus on getting the joy into your searching in a lot of different places before you even think about trialing. Please, 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 that little green ribbon is not worth it. Think about the
focus
longevity.
On the joy. I love it, Stacy. I love you. For episodes 29 through 32, we had the fabulous Jo-Rosie Haffenden, and she actually took 3 of the 5 top spots. This is the takeaways from the Incentive Salience Theory episode. Just be clear. Be clear in your training, no matter, just clear in everything in your life, and it's going to be so much kinder to everybody around you and yourself. So clarity is kindness. That's mine. Robin.
My probably biggest takeaway besides the enjoy your teenage teenage months with the puppies, because, certain things are coming out, and value that time. But the other one is the whole concept behind the dopamine being an attractant and a magnet for behavior. And then, thinking about how I start the puppies at a really young age. I've gone through the SWDI Master Trainer program, right? And so I'm using the bottle caps or the Kong pieces or whatever to teach these very young puppies this magnetic behavior of a sit and stare will get you all sorts of stuff. And I have a lot to think about on that dopamine thing. So expect lots of questions. or actually what I'd really love is some reading material, right? Where do I go to learn so I can think about that more?
If you Google incentive salience and incentive sensation theories as well, if you just Google that, you'll head down a really beautiful rabbit hole, and you just won't stop. Like there's so much. There's a whole body of work. So but also if you get a chance,
I'm slow to write things down. You said incentive salience, and what was the other one?
Incentive sensation theories.
Thank you.
If you also try and just listen to everything Simone Gabois says about it.
I love him.
My fave.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. And he talks a lot about it. And then you'll end up going down the rabbit hole of like sign seeking versus reward seeking, which was the other one. Before I said there was two things I'm really interested in. That's the other one, but we won't dig into that.
That's the next one. Yeah,
that's the next. So that's that. I think that's where I'd go with that probably. I guess my take home for people would be that breed really does matter. Like breed does matter, and the line in which the dog was bred really does matter. Like anything that speaks to the contrary goes against years and years of practical experience, as well as as well as a whole body of work from many, many other scientists. And when it comes to predation, thinking about what a dog has been bred to do and mastering using that desire to perform those behaviors really is the key to training any high drive dog. I think that would be my thing that I'd like people to think about and to take home really when it comes to their practical training, is to really think about what behavior is your dog like a magnet, like a moth to a flame for, and how can you use that in your training to your advantage? And I suppose remembering that using that doesn't mean it has to happen at the end, and thinking about developing training strategies and jumping outside of that box where we set up an antecedent and we get a behavior that we want and then we give it a lovely consequence, and tearing up that rule book, and instead going like things can happen in other orders. If the behavior is the reward, then how can we develop the beginning and the end to allow for a really beautiful training drill and a really clean way of training it that the dog still is going to repeat, and thinking about things in a different way. Because I think that when you start thinking about it like that, it opens up this world of creativity when it comes to looking at exercises that you just don't see at the moment. Like me and Nando do all these training drills and training reps, and I just think like it's opened thinking about training in that way in a different order, and not thinking about it in this linear setup that we've always been taught it in, has really made us train completely differently sometimes.
I'm curious, how much time do you spend thinking about it versus doing it?
I spend all the time that I can't spend doing it thinking about it.
Yes, I think we're cut from the same cloth.
I don't spend any of the time thinking about it when I could be doing it.
There
exactly.
You go.
Next up is episode 34, the importance of odor hygiene.
Yeah, which gets to the color dye does have odor. People who are in nosework people, please don't use those plastic stick Q-tips with the different colors in order to color code your odors. Please don't do that. I've seen people do that where they have pink and blue and yellow and they do a different color for every odor. Please don't do that. That's my PSA.
That's your PSA. Actually,
That's my PSA.
You have another PSA.
Thank you for reminding me. Please, capital P, LEASE. Please do not leave, or please do not set naked Q-tips as hides in the search area. Okay, your Q-tips need to be properly clothed and decent. Okay, because you're going to that oil. That's like that paint. That's like tar, man. It's like leaving tar in the search area.
Is the reason that you want them clothed is so that when you stick them in somewhere, the oils don't then like ooze out of it into the surrounding area?
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
that you're not like it becomes radioactive. It's like, now you're leaving the search area radioactive.
Well, and that's like radioactive forever because your guys' odors stick there.
Oh, tell me about it. That stuff is like you can't get rid of it. So yeah. It is highly, highly, highly irresponsible to use a naked Q-tip in the search area, because here's the thing: we have thousands and thousands and thousands of nose workers now. People out there trying to train their dogs, or even just going through an area, walking their dog, not training at that moment, and you've set a naked Q-tip, and that naked Q-tip, even though you've removed it, is now creating a scent cone that is just as big as if they put a hide out there. Please, guys, don't do that. That is highly irresponsible. That's my PSA. And there's no LOL joking after that one.
Okay. I won't make an LOL joke.
There's no LOL. Okay, go ahead.
Like, imagine a Q-tip in a bikini, right?
No, we don't
anyway.
Clothe your Q-tips, folks.
Clothe your Q-tips.
Decent Q-tips only, nothing naked.
36 is how Emily Lawrence trains competitive tracking and confidence. Here are the takeaways. Stacy, what's your takeaway?
I'm just like totally blown away. And honestly, for me, I want to go out and teach my dog how to track. Not necessarily footstep tracking, because I think that's just psycho. Based on what you're saying, like I'm sitting here going, hey, like tracking sounds like fun, other than all the psycho stuff. But hey, I am so impressed. But I think what it really comes down to is just really kind of amazing what we can train the dog to do. And when you have a dog that has like kind of more of a natural tendency in terms of how they want to go about, using their noses, and then we kind of basically tell them like, no, well, we want you to do it this way. I think it's just amazing how they can adapt to what I like to call our silly human rules, which is really kind of like what we do with a lot of our sports, right? And I just find it absolutely inspiring, and just it's absolutely been so inspiring just listening to you and learning a little bit more about all of this. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like I have a lot of takeaways. One of them that you said kind of early on was about having your group of people, kind of your tribe. And I know you were also a helper. And so that puts such a beating on our bodies. And I do remember once at physical therapy, and they said, so other people do this too? Like
on purpose?
And so, knowing how hard tracking can be, and to find other people that, want to go out there and spend hours, just watching the grass grow sometimes.
Yes.
It's so important though. And when you said about, you really said, trust your training and let your dog use their superpowers. And I'm totally going to go do that now and not worry about, I'm just going to have more fun. I think you've inspired me to have more fun and be a little more, let's let the dog figure this out a little more and not micromanage. So that's the takeaway and the inspiration you've given me.
Fantastic. Yeah. Big potatoes, not small potatoes. Yeah.
And what's the takeaway you'd like to share with everybody?
I think my biggest takeaway is, so for sport tracking, for the ridiculously difficult sport of Schutzhund, is don't give up, keep going. I tried quitting the sport a couple times. It didn't work out because it gets in your skin, it gets in, I just have to do it, but
it just sucked you right back in.
It does. But I guess what makes this sport great is the journey. And a lot of the training that's where this is fun. It's the training, it's going It's meeting the people. It's traveling to, like meeting you, Crystal and Nancy. I never would have done it without this sport. And just find the people that you really enjoy training with and keep them close. And if you're in a situation where you're not having fun, then maybe reevaluate going to a different group or figuring something else out. But it should be fun. You should want to go wake up at 5 or 4 or 3 in the morning to go track it out. Right?
And Stacy just went, wait a minute.
I'm like, I do that every weekend.
Yeah. For some of our guests, we have reflections right after we have them on. And episode 37 is our reflections on competitive tracking with Emily Lawrence. Here are those takeaways.
Huge takeaways. My takeaway is, can I use these 2 words? The how methodical Emily has had to be to teach this type of systematic tracking, and how she has to think about, since she's going for a very stylistic, obedient style tracking, how she has had to, the technicality of slicing all of that back in, from everything from the stylistic head bobs to how he downs on an article to how the dog gets up and moves on, all of it. I am a technician at heart, and that makes my little heart sing and gives me all sorts of things to think about when I drive.
My takeaway is I am just inspired. Listening to her, it was just inspiring. And even though I don't want to do necessarily footstep tracking, it really does make me want to track again and get one of my girls out there. So I just really felt inspired.
Who knows? Maybe I'll have a puppy that I do tracking with, because I have time.
Yeah, love puppies.
I think we talked about it a lot, but that the training isn't always pretty. And when she said that, it really took me to that growth mindset. And her takeaway at the end was not to give up. And she said that maybe it's because it's not fun, but really she was just saying, try something different. And when she would talk about any time that there was a failure, she never said failure. And she basically just said that it's mistakes and they're helping her learn. And I just really like how, even if it's too hard, she wouldn't say that. She would just say, it's just going to take some time. Or you would never hear her say, I can't. She would just say, I don't know how to do this yet. Everything about her in my eyes was growth mindset.
Yes.
And that was the big takeaway inspiration for me. And that she didn't start off saying, I want to be a national champion, but that's who she is. And I think it's because of that growth mindset. I really do. I think it's hand in hand.
And so she did it with a border collie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Her. For episode 38, we revisited some more of those questions that people had asked during the roundtable. This one's called More Questions from the Crowd.
No Lumpy McLumpersons. Everything we talked about, most of what we talked about here today, was slicing things down to very specific training goals instead of trying to ask your learner to make those magic automatic jumps. And also, when they fail at something, use that as a learning opportunity for them and thank them for giving you the information.
So I'm going to go back to the distraction one. That was my thing.
Yes.
And it really is about simplifying and slicing it down. I do think that everything that we've discussed today is about, if we run into problems, it really is about going back, and not even back to, but teaching foundation.
Yep.
So it's the building blocks that we need to reinforce and recognize where the holes are so that we can go, oh, that was the information. And now this is the skill that maybe I didn't teach or I need to teach now, that I can build really fast because I already have all these other things going. Go, Stacy, go. You got it.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, I saw
takeaway. Jazz fingers.
I know. And I'm like, I do have a takeaway. What looks simple may not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You betcha.
What looks simple may not be. Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why people let me go and search their cars.
Whoop. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, may not be.
I enjoy
Okay.
you guys so much.
Thanks
Oh my
everybody for joining us for this, I'm sure, hopefully entertaining episode.
Jeez. Why do they even listen to us?
I know.
We couldn't decide what to discuss that evening on episode 39, so I might have ambushed Stacy and Robin. So this was our ambush episode. Let's talk about being dreamers, doers, and self-care. They had no idea what the question of the topic was going to be that night. I'm going to do the takeaways because
Perfect.
I learned a lot today. So at least I should do that since you worked so hard.
Was this on topic? Was this about dog training? Was this?
It's about
It's okay.
dog trainers. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, it all fits because, like I said, I want to be you when I grow up, and so do others possibly. And so it was a chance to kind of hear.
If you guys cannot see the eye rolling that we're doing at Crystal, but anyway.
Yeah.
So the original question was about taking care of yourself and about how you're both dreamers, but you make it happen and you become doers. And some of the things that I wanted to recap was the idea of boundaries. I heard that a lot. I heard about being decisive. And Robin also pointed out that sometimes, making the choice not to choose, that's also being decisive. But know what you want and don't be afraid of failure, because if you work hard and you play hard, you're going to basically embrace change is what I heard a lot. It's just knowing that change is going to happen and embrace that. And I love the situational extrovert. And when you said that, I'm like, yes, I think all three of us are that. I think Stacy, definitely you're more on the extroverted side.
No, it's highly situational though, because sometimes I'm like, no, I don't do conflict. I don't
It's very people-y out there.
Yeah, conflict isn't. Yeah, I don't know, but I like the situational idea, and
it's all situational.
I think the biggest thing that I kept hearing was face the challenges, and I love both of your attitudes about it. It's almost like you turn it all into a game, and it's just we're going at it, whether it's a bowl or or it's a job opportunity, or you just make that decision and you go. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that advice. So I appreciate you both. And I appreciate you sharing your future plans too. This is going to be so much fun to keep working together.
I would think it'd be great if people have surprise question episode thoughts that they would like to see us discuss. Send an idea to one of us and then we'll ambush the other people.
I love it. Send it to me.
Okay, so Stacy wants them. Okay.
Send them just to me and I'll ambush. Yeah, that works.
Like on Messenger or something?
Yeah.
Messenger. Just go
Messenger.
Here's your topic.
Yeah, you could send it to Stacy over Messenger because if you send it to the collaborative,
we all got it.
We all get it.
So it's not a surprise anymore.
No. So send it to Stacy.
Episode 40 is about canine cross training. What else we do with our dogs. Here are the takeaways. Anytime that we can cross train with things that are instinctual for our dogs, where it's bitey dogs doing bite sports, whether it's the floppy ears doing the hunt. I mean, that's where I think that we are celebrating what our dogs are bred for. Yeah. And by using their instincts, I think that it's also going to build our relationships. I 100% think, and this is just from what I'm learning from Joe Lawrence and Thomas Stoke, doing hunt stuff and learning the foundations of those skills. I wish all dog owners would do it. Because it's all of the key things you need to have a good dog in society. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
And it's interesting for me to listen from like handlers in Europe where it's expected that their dogs go out in public and have good social manners and go through very, what we would over here consider advanced training. Yeah. So that your dogs are, they're productive members of society.
Yeah. And that is such a cultural difference. And I do wish that some of that could change here somehow. And I don't have the answer to that, but there is definitely, I'll just say a cultural difference.
Right.
Episode 42, we have referred back to this one quite a bit. It's called Words Matter.
I think you
because I'm going to screw up.
No, no.
I mean, everybody does this stuff. We're already on what? We're on episode 40, I think.
Yes.
You wear your heart on your sleeve, and it comes out through the microphone too. And we love you, and I'm sure everybody who listens does too.
Aw,
Yeah.
thanks, friend. So what's your takeaways?
My takeaway is pay attention to what you say, how you say it, and what you mean behind it. And think about what comes out of your mouth when you actually say it to your dog and to other people.
And to yourself.
And to yourself. It's just because even if you don't mean something, when once it comes out of your mouth, it's out there, and it's hard to take stuff back. Like, it's just be thoughtful. I don't know.
Be kind.
Be
I don't know if
kind.
that's a great takeaway or not, but it's kind of what's in my head.
And I'm actually going to bounce off of that takeaway because one of the things when you have the wayward home for dog trainers at your house is that you end up having all sorts of really in-depth kind of weird conversations with people.
Yeah.
And you're
probably like your husband is saying, why is that red trailer still in our driveway?
Yes.
Why is that white murder van still here?
and so
we're going to start charging them rent.
Crystal had a really good thing that I've actually been trying to work on too, is that I'm now an asker instead of a guesser. If somebody says something that I don't understand quite for where they're coming from, the question is, well, what do you mean by that? Don't immediately take it personally. Or I'm not going to guess on what time would you like me to show up? What time do you want me to be there? All of those sorts of things. So that's one of my takeaways, because words do matter. And the hardest part of understanding that words matter is when you start having this whole conversation in your head about who you are, what you do, all of these other things. That's actually a habit that you're creating.
Yeah.
And how you view and how you present yourself to the world. So in order to change that, you actually now have to do a whole bunch of different stuff. So that's why when we start talking about, own the fact that, my timing or my observation skills may not be super fantastic, but I'm going to work on them every chance I get. And one of the ways that I do that is I train behaviors that don't matter to my odor work. This is one of the reasons I really like directionals. And so just everybody be kind to yourself. Recognize those patterns that you're using, and really make sure that you're saying what you mean, because sometimes you don't mean what you say.
I'm going to piggyback on yours. Just one last thing.
Okay.
When you say be kind to yourself, I think that already that makes you kinder to others. So start with yourself.
Agreed.
Be nice to yourself already. You're amazing.
To your dog. And to your dog.
And to your dog.
Episode 43 was such a great opportunity for us to get to know Amy Herot. Here are the takeaways.
I think it's really important for people to really stay connected with where this sport came from, and really the soul of it, and how it really is about that connection with your dog, and really to do something that's just not something that you could do really with any other sport out there. And for me, it's just beautiful. And I hope everybody takes that away from this conversation. And that's my takeaway.
My takeaway is Amy, what you were talking about with how Ron was saying the dogs are now inviting us into their world, and how we are through their nose now getting to do this really fantastic thing, whether you're doing competition level stuff or you're doing professional detection stuff. And respecting that the fact that the animal gets to choose the reinforcer is highly important. So that was my big thing.
Yeah. I love both of those things, and definitely you're hitting on a takeaway for me for sure. And I'm so grateful of those lessons from Ron Gaunt and Jill Marie O'Brien and I'm so glad that we, as business partners, all had the love of dogs with that same mission. And I think to just remember to be in the present with your dog, to really be in the moment, that whether you're trialing or you're training or you've just adopted the dog, is to remember that they're the product of all their learning experiences, and to not really hold on to the baggage, but to be with them with where they are right now. And that'll just serve you across many levels. And I think it's such a valuable handling, philosophy to apply, and one that might free you up.
Episode 45 was intentional handling. Ooh, can I start?
Yes, please do.
Please.
I still stand by my original statement that Stacy is sensationally brilliant and Robin is ridiculously genius. And I love chatting with you. And I think you did a fantastic job of intentionality and giving me some new things to think about. Like, I'm going to go use another sniff spot. There's a couple of them now that I can think of that I thought, I wonder if I can use that. And now I know. So I'm so thankful for that. And then thinking about the fluency, I want to go back and listen to that episode again, because there's some things there that kind of started tickling my brain, and I'm going to have to try to put my finger on it. I don't know, Robin, you got me there. So those were mine.
My takeaway from this is actually I tell my students all the time to make sure that they're in the screen so I can see them. When you video your dog a lot, I do the swinging phone. And I also think about the fact that, especially with my puppies, my starting ritual from where I start them to where we end up is two different things, which is now something I'm going to change in that starting ritual with them. And my other takeaway is to really start being conscious about, if I am videoing, actually talking through the 2 steps forward to do this, 2 steps to the side to do this, 2 steps to the back to do this. So that when I share it with students and they're like, why are you moving like that? I don't have to go back and say, well, this is what I think was going on. And also, I think in my working with students, having them understand how their body proximity, posture, shoulders, all that sort of stuff really pushes their dogs, and maybe coming up with some exercises to do that.
My takeaway really comes down to 3 words: observe and adjust. So really, when you start thinking about intentional handling, the first step to intentional handling is observation and making sure that you are understanding who your dog is, how they are responding to you and to the environment, and then adjusting what you do based on your observations. So I guess that's 3 words: observe, and adjust, or we would just call that observe?
I don't know, but it was brilliant.
Loved it.
It was brilliant. So we're going to stop there.
We found ourselves talking a lot about gratitude, and episode 48 was about setting goals based on gratitude.
It talked about the whole fact that, if I want to be, the equivalent of Eddie Van Halen and be this internationally known rock star god on a guitar, and I'd better be in love with the entire process of becoming, and the practice and the hours and the bloody fingers and the blisters and, all of this other stuff in order to become that person.
Yeah.
And there's at some point, if somebody'd call me and be like, well, hey, how'd you get where you are? And I'm like, okay, here's the good, bad, and the ugly.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
and some lost relationships and all sorts of other things that go along with it because we're not perfect. And I can get a little tunnel vision sometimes. So,
hey, I'm there.
Right.
Do I think I'd be single? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, lost relationships.
Going along with what you said, Robin, one thing that I've been really working hard toward is trying to learn one new thing every day about my passions. So every day I'm making sure I learn something new about search and rescue, detection, or protection sports. Every day I make sure that I learn something new. And my system now that I'm doing, because I've been, poor Robin's been hearing this a lot. I need a system. Well, my system now is Google Keep.
Yay.
Thank you, Google Keep. So every day I'm using that as my place to record that new thing that I learn every day. So I have a place that I already know that every day I'm writing something there, and I can always go back to these ideas and go back to these new thoughts that I have that can then continue to build and grow. So if I have a day where I think, oof, I didn't learn something new today, a lot of times I can go back to that list. And so that definitely is one of those ways to work towards your goals.
Yeah.
If you want to get really good at something, is just, if you can, every day, learn something new about that. Just one thing. And maybe it's contact somebody or read something or one thing.
Yeah.
I usually have if I learn one new thing per day, I get to go back to bed. So some days I get to go back to bed at like 8 a.m. Doesn't really happen. And we'll put a link in the show notes, but the book I was talking about was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep.
Yeah.
And that actually became a book that I started recommending out to a lot of people because it really, really talks about what's your thing and doing the soul searching to find your thing and understanding that there's also a lot of power in saying, no, that's not my thing.
Wait. What are those called? Boundaries?
Yeah. Boundaries are amazing.
She went to Boundaries. I went to City Slickers. You remember Curly? City Slickers? Right?
Yes.
What's the one thing?
Yes.
That's where I went. She went Boundaries, and I'm like, City Slickers, Curly.
That's a little bit older for me. Sorry.
I'm not that much older than you.
No. I'm saying movie wise. It's just so old. I'm like, I can't remember it. It was so long ago.
I think it was back when we had like VHS and Beta.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, well, I am saying we're old, but you know.
All right.
I will add one more thing though, when it comes to goals. I don't know if you guys feel the same about it, but I do, whenever I set goals or think about them, I always try to also include, does it make the world better? And it could be a simple thing, even if I'm just teaching my dog a skill, is that skill making the world better? And maybe it's a stretch, but if it's helping me learn something, if it's making them easier to live with, all of those things are going to make my life better that I can then help other people. So those are all things too that I add to the goals, whether it's really, really micro goals or, macro goals. So something else maybe to think about.
I will turn that around. And does it make the world better or does it make the dog better for the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, both.
Right.
Or does it just make me happier?
If it makes you happier, you know what? The world just got better. Because if Stacy ain't happy, ain't nobody's happy.
Right.
Episode 49, we're all part of the human condition. So we talked about imposter syndrome and canine training and adding value in the dog world.
Not only do we do experiments for our own training to see, because, even Crystal, we've had lots of conversations. Well, how do you teach this, and oh my gosh, let's do it that way. But as a dog trainer, you are inherently have to be curious about how is my animal going to work?
Yes.
How is this going to work to teach my animal the thing?
Mm-hmm.
And some of it's just having a good enough foundation so that if you do set a crappy hide, your dog doesn't learn 500 things that it shouldn't. And knowing when to pull the plug. If the problem's not going correctly, just pull the plug and be done. And go back to doing whatever you were doing. So
I would like to see if we have some takeaways.
My takeaway is I really like the 80% rule for when you can own it. And the balance that I have to bring between attribution and owning it.
Yeah. When you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming to my therapy session.
Thanks for bringing your therapy session to us.
Yeah, so
And how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Like I
and
need
this is
wine.
a nutrition coach.
Yes.
Dude, I need your nutrition coach.
Well, it all
man.
goes back to stress eating.
Wow.
It all goes back
but
to
the
stress
fact
eating.
that,
That's
that they
amazing.
are willing to address that. Wow. I want your
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she
Wow.
sounds it. Stacy, do you want to give some takeaways or new thoughts or?
Yeah. And I think mine is that, it's okay to learn and pass on, but try to do it in a way that you're adding value and try to think about it instead of a lift and drop, more about like, what do you bring to the table? Because let me tell you, if you're an instructor, you're bringing something to the table, right? That's what you do as an instructor. You bring something to the table. So if you've learned something from someone else, that's awesome because that just means that you're perpetuating knowledge. But try to add value to that. Try to build on that. Try to create something that's a part of your framework and a part of your brand and how you can then help that next generation of searching people.
I don't have some glorious thing this time. Not that I always do or ever do, but it's
Yes,
just
you do every time. Every time
Yeah,
you'll come up
no.
with something. It'll all of a sudden there's gonna. I know it's a
gonna
lot
gel.
of pressure. Pressure.
Well,
Like
it's the vulnerability that I just adore so much. I guess about all three of us really, that we're willing to be so out there and raw and share. And I think that I was just so shocked when we chatted for just a few seconds before to figure out our topic. And when Robin said that she was working through some imposter syndrome thoughts, my brain melted a little. Like I know everybody feels these things. I get it. But when you're feeling it hardcore yourself, and then people that you look up to, you hear it from them, it really it makes you feel not isolated. You're just part of everybody else. You're part of the human experience, and you're part of the shit show, and it's all good.
Well, Mark, this one is explicit and we're fine.
Yeah. It is what it is. And I really appreciated that. And I also recognize that I must have birds on the brain because I think they came in the conversation a few times. So maybe I do need to start looking into these birds. And our final episode for takeaways was the Big 50. Number 50 was the highlight episode. We'll leave you here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I think the other one I was thinking about is our freebies. So we haven't had many, but the few that we've had
We're really awesome.
They're really awesome. It took a lot of time to put those together. And so hopefully
we haven't had that many.
if I can get life back together where I'm not drowning all the time, then hopefully we can get some more freebies out there.
Figure out how to do that. Let me know.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Because just so you guys know, the freebie stuff, Crystal took that head on and started doing it, and Stacy and I would occasionally help. And it was just wow.
I just had to drop it because that's of all the things, I had to do the things that people are paying me for, like my job.
Amazing how that works. So I think that we constantly have to think about you guys as listeners on what do you want to hear? What do you want us to talk about? What do you want? Do you want us to go really, really in depth and having, really highly technical discussions? Because we can do that, but wow. Sometimes we're like, that's kind of boring.
Let's balance that. I'm still gung-ho on getting the voice thing going so people can leave voice messages and then we can include those on the show. So if they have questions, they can either send them to us on social media, or we'll have that thing set up so that they can send us their, so we can actually share their voice on the show. Since we have Zach doing all the editing, why not?
Right.
But that's something that I would like to get that set up pretty soon. So keep an eye on for that. He did say, though, if you want to join on that, make sure you're using something good quality so we can actually hear your voice clearly. So like what's the AirPods or microphone or something like that. So it's recorded nicely.
Yes.
So if that's something that you would
dog
like,
barking in the background.
yeah, well, no, it doesn't bother me any, but
Oh, that's
so truly, if that's something you guys think that you might want from us, let us know. Like, put it in the comments in our Instagram or our Facebook on this episode, and give us an idea. What do you want to hear for the next 50? Or
That would be, yes.
how many ever we do.
Yeah, that would be lovely, because we come up with what we think are fabulous ideas and then usually get sidetracked.
Yeah.
How many times have people said that, though? Like, when are you going to share that one? Oh, yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's kind of like, this is our topic. Oh, no, it's not. So the name of the episode may not actually reflect what we actually talked about.
It starts that way, though.
It started that way. Yeah. Yep.
So I liked it overall, though. We started as, have you guys read our description in a long time?
No.
Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Sure.
Prepare for candid conversations about the reality of training, deploying, or competing with a canine partner. Each episode is a cross-pollination from the professional and sport canine camps, exploring how we all want the same thing, a great relationship with our dog. With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and includes interviews with top trainers and scientists. We keep it fun, honest, and rated PG 13-ish.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's still pretty accurate. Who knew?
Yeah, pretty accurate.
Yeah.
A year ago, we would have done that.
Yeah. Here we are. We contact Maverick and she makes a jingle, and we contact Zach and he makes it happen. And
Here we are.
Oof, it's in the air. Yeah.
Yep.
We did it. We did it, you guys.
That's 50. You know what, everybody? Thank you so much for listening in. And we're going to hopefully after the next 50 episodes, kind of do another little reflection like this. And we appreciate every single one of you for listening in. Don't forget to share us with your family and training partners. And thank you so much. And we'll be here next week.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.